Hello everyone. This is your video about how to do pre-writing, how to get ready for our next paper, which is Ethical Analysis 2. First, I want to tell you that I do practice what I preach. So, for example, in my English 100 class, we're doing a book called Between the World and Me. And we just started. We only started reading it last week. Here's my notebook, and I have about 19 pages of notes. 19 pages. So it's really a lot of work to get ready. It's true in my teaching, and it's true for the papers you have to write. Also, I will confess to you that sometimes when I'm getting ready to write a paper or getting ready to teach a book, I use too much paper. So here's some of my, a lot of paper. Okay, I apologize to the trees. All right, here we go. So I'm going to give you 11 steps. First tip for you is don't try to write your outline right away. There's a lot of work you have to do before you're ready to write an outline of your paper. Okay, so 11 steps. And so I want you to write down each step. So if you need to pause the video to get a pencil and paper, you should do that now. Okay? So 11 steps. All right, so my example is going to be a moment from the story of Aziz Ansari. So here's the article. All right, so I'm going to give you my 11 steps. And this is all mostly before you write an outline. All right, number 1. Number 1, the act. Ansari told her he was going to grab a condom within minutes of their first kiss. Okay, so that's my ethical action. So notice I'm not focusing on public shaming, which is your topic. This is the action in question. So my paper that I'm planning, getting ready for, is just this act. Okay, so that's number 1. What is the act? Next. Number 2. I need a narrow ethical question. So here's my narrow ethical question. Was it permissible for Ansari to say he was getting a condom within minutes of their first kiss? So that's your narrow ethical question. And you might fiddle around with it. You might try writing it a few different ways, but you need this step. Okay. Next. Number 3. My gut reaction. Dude, slow down. So this is the spot where you have your feelings. If you think that Ansari is a total prick, then you can have a little tantrum about that. Or maybe you feel differently. Maybe you feel like, oh, he's a nice guy. He's just a little too eager. So have your feelings now. But once you're done with that, goodbye feelings and start doing philosophy. Okay. Step 4. Possible answers to the ethical question. So remember, you had your narrow question. Was it permissible for Ansari to say that he was going to get a condom within the first few minutes of their first kiss? Okay? So you got to think about what the possible answers are. To me, it looks like this. Yes, it was permissible to say that. No, it was not permissible to say that. Or you could be more subtle. It was permissible. Not ideal, like he could have done better, but permissible. Or you could say it was immoral, not permissible, but not extremely immoral, only a little bit immoral, right? There's shades of gray. So think about what the options are for your ethical question. Okay, next, we're on to number 5. This is when you have to start thinking really hard. Possible arguments on both sides. So you're not just rushing into making your argument. So you have to imagine that people disagree. So for people who think it was permissible for Ansari to do this, what would they say? What would their reasons be? For people who think it was not permissible, what would they say? What would their reasons be? This is hard. It might take some time. And this is where you could ask your friends or talk to other people about it and get some ideas. Because you want to really set your own opinion aside and imagine the debate. Okay? So, possible arguments on both sides. Step 5. Step 6. This is something we did in class. Compare my case to really obvious cases that are similar. So in the case of Ansari saying he was going to get a condom really fast, think of examples that are similar to yours, that are kind of like it. What would be an obviously wrong thing to do? What would be an obviously okay thing to say? So imagine Ansari in that moment where they just start kissing. Think of something that would be obviously right for him to say. Think of something that would be obviously wrong. And then, well, where does my case fit in? So the action I'm considering, is it more like the obviously right case? Or is it more like the obviously wrong case? And you might even put an X on your line where you think it is. So this is part of your thought process. Okay, next. So, notice that you haven't decided yet. But now, let's decide. So, decide. Rough thesis. So you have to make up your mind what your position is, probably around now in your process. So saying he'd get a condom so soon was, and then your position. Like, what will you argue for? It was permissible for him to do that. It was not permissible. It was permissible, though not very ideal. Or it was immoral, but not extremely immoral. So here you make up your mind. And notice I have these dashes. You might try writing your thesis in like 5 different ways at this point. Just fiddle around with the words. This is a good part of your thought process. Okay, that's number 7. Decide. Now, number 8. How will I support my thesis? Reasons my thesis is best. So you might go back to the chart. Where was the chart? That was step 5, possible arguments on both sides. So you've chosen a side now. And you want to think of what are the best reasons. How many reasons do you need for an argument? Well, probably somewhere between 2 and 5 reasons. Different reasons that your thesis is correct. And again, this is hard thinking. So you might stare into space. You might get confused. You might procrastinate and go have a snack. But don't do that for too long. So you have to really start thinking about what your reasons will be. And of course, each reason will be a different paragraph. So notice you're starting to make an outline in a way. Okay? All right, next. My argument and theory. So my suggestion, notice we're on step 9 and you haven't even started thinking about theory. You need to have a virtue argument for this paper. And then you'll have a deontological argument or a duties-based argument where you consider prima facie duties and what the actual duty is. So you want to take your step 8, how will I support my thesis, and start thinking in terms of theory now. What will my virtue argument be? This might be something new you hadn't thought of before, or maybe one of the ideas you had actually is a virtue argument. And maybe one of the ideas you had is a deontological argument. I noticed I forgot utilitarian. There we go. Utilitarian? Okay. So once you really have a handle on your argument, then you can start using the theory to refine it, to really make it more precise and more powerful. Okay, we're almost done. Step 10, plan rebuttals. Possible objections to my argument. So here you imagine how people would disagree with you. What would they say? And so you won't handle every possible objection you can think of. You have to think about what the most important ones are. Because the goal of handling an objection is to make your argument better. So probably you'll just do 1 or 2 rebuttals. So you're not going to respond to every possible thing someone could say against you. But you need to have a plan. And you'll have at least 1 rebuttal paragraph. Okay, so we're near the end. Sorry this video is so long. Now, after all that, you're ready to start making an outline. Thesis at the top. Each one of your reasons will be 1 paragraph, plus 1 or 2 of these will be rebuttal paragraphs. So now start making an outline of your paper. Now you're ready. And in your next video, you will get more on outlining. Okay. And of course, it's a big mess. Thanks.